Today is such a special treat, and I know I am intimately and personally delighted to have Akira here, and I'm not going to say much about him and what he does. Someone else will do that, but I just want to say that this is what we are co-creating together here. This is what we are about sitting in community and connecting from all of the different places. And so one thing that comes to mind today is that this an opportunity to slow down. And I was reading this today, and it's that the faster way to speed up your progress is to slow down. And I think that as helpers and, you know, people who care for other people, whatever we are naming ourselves, Monday morning for me, it's an opportunity to pause and to be in community. And so welcome to today's event, which is a really, truly a special event. Just happy to see everyone here. Welcome.
Thank you, Isabel. Good morning, everyone. On behalf of Focusing Initiatives and our new platform, coronaplaza.life, it's really wonderful to be with you. I see so many people that we see every Monday, and I see many new faces from many countries. And this is the intention, is that we're all here together supporting each other in what I would call a shared humanity. And I'm not going to say anything more because I'm also really excited and grateful that Akira has agreed to be with us today. And so, Lynn, if you would say a few words, we'd really appreciate that.
Good morning. This is being led here by Akira from Japan, who is a very beloved teacher and a bridge between the East and West and between philosophy and practice. Akira has a wonderful way of taking the incredibly complex philosophy of the implicit that underlies focusing and bringing it into the immediacy of our experience. And Akira is beloved all over the world for his teaching and for his love of focusing and ability to portray it in all kinds of really creative ways and ways that I think are very poetic and speak the language of the implicit as well as the language of the explicit. So Akira, welcome, welcome. We all are so appreciative to have you.
Hello, hello. Jean used to say hello, hello all the time. I'm glad to see you all. I know some of you, and I don't know many of you, but I'm glad to meet you. And today, I'm really happy for Lynn to invite me to speak on this occasion, Lynn and Melinda. And I hope I can be of some help for helpers. Okay, so I'd like to start off talking about the model which underlies focusing so that we can sort of understand what focusing is all about. But there's a danger there because once I start talking about philosophy and things, I don't seem to be able to stop. So I'm trying to keep it as short as I can. I think the starting point of focusing, of human experience actually, is that experience is not made up of words. So there's something there that you feel or something there that you experience, but you don't know what it is yet. So for example, you might say, there's something that I'm feeling today, and it's like I'm nervous. But then if I check the word nervous with my experience, I might notice that it doesn't fit. So then I don't know what it is, and I look for another expression. And maybe I'll find I'm tired. Then again, I check if that expression, that word tired, fits my experience. So actually we're going zigzag between what is not yet words and words or symbols. Jen whole philosophy is about the interaction of symbols and experience. So this is where focusing comes from. And putting words or symbols to our experience enables us to understand experience. So if I said I'm nervous today, I understand myself as being nervous. And if I say, oh no, it's not nervous, I'm tired, then in that moment, I'm understanding myself to be tired. And if the words change, my understandings change. So in focusing, we're constantly going through this, checking with symbols and trying to explicate, that's the word we use, explicate our experience. Some people think in terms of the old-fashioned model of unconscious and conscious. So if there's something I'm feeling and I don't know what it is, some people tend to think that that's the unconscious. But actually it isn't. It's simply that experience is not made up of words. So if you were to say, if I were to ask you, to describe me, what kind of person is Akira? You'll have to struggle to find words to say your experience of me. It doesn't mean that your experience of me is unconscious. We have experience, but we don't have the words yet. And I think this is what Jen was doing when in focusing. It's so fundamental and so fundamental to human consciousness. And that's why we listen and try to understand the other exactly. Okay? So if I say, I'm feeling nervous, and you say, is it nervousness you feel? Then I check back in myself and I find something else. And I will say that something else. Oh, I'm just tired. And then you will ask, so you're tired? Then I check back with my experience. And this process keeps going. Okay, so this is what we call experiential process. Shall I stop there for a minute? If you have any questions. Barbara has some questions.
So he's not disregarding the unconscious, is he, Jenlin?
Well, it depends on what you mean by unconscious. He has a refutation of the repressed unconscious.
Oh,
So he refutes the repression paradigm.
he does.
Yeah. So there are things that we're not aware of course, but it doesn't mean that they are defended against or that they are forbidden to come into consciousness.
It doesn't mean they're forbidden by us.
See, that's the problem of repression. Who's doing the repressing?
That's good. I like that.
Yeah.
Well, give me an example.
Well, anything. If I say, I'm not nervous, I'm not tired, and I don't know what I'm feeling now. Okay.
Yeah.
So that could be, I don't know what I'm feeling now, could be a resistance, they would say. right? The unconscious doesn't want to disclose itself.
So there is an unconscious.
No,
No?
no. It's just that what we experience has no words yet.
Okay.
Okay. I use the word unconscious as an explanatory concept,
Okay.
right? So it's not like there's an area of our consciousness which is called the unconscious. It's the iceberg, you know, it's under the
Yeah,
water.
that's what I was thinking of.
Yeah, that's a metaphor, right?
Yeah.
It doesn't mean there's an iceberg in my head, of course, right? So it's a way of explaining things.
Okay.
So I might say, now I know that it was unconscious.
Mm-hmm.
But that's my way of explaining the meaning that just came to me.
Okay. I like
Okay.
that. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
That's a good question you asked, because that's where a lot of people are confused.
Mm-hmm. Yes, because we study a different model. You know,
That's right.
the analytic model. Yeah.
That's right. So now I think I, really need to put forth a model.
Yes.
Yeah.
I wonder
Not
if
just how to do focusing, but a model.
I wonder if I could put a word in there, Akira.
Sure.
Would that be okay?
Sure.
I think that Genlin's philosophy is all about process and not things. So when we talk about the unconscious, it's a thing. You know, it's this thing where repressed material is, and it's a noun. If we talk about something as being unconscious out of our awareness, that's sort of a different thing. And we can also talk about not defending ourselves against certain experiences so we can't be aware of them because they're too threatening. Jean isn't against that because that's a process. It's this movement from thingifying to experientializing or something.
He had two critiques in his paper called A Theory of Personality Change. He critiqued the repression paradigm and also the content paradigm. And I guess Lynn is addressing the content paradigm. So we are not made up of contents. We are a process. So I want to throw out one more thing and we can get going. The other thing I want to throw out here is focusing, or for that matter, any kind of therapy, is actually a mode of self-reflection. Okay, so if I say, I'm feeling nervous today, but nervous isn't the right word. What am I doing right there? I'm reflecting on myself. Okay. So what's really crucial is the ability to reflect. Otherwise, we would just be stating facts. So this reflecting about oneself, sometimes we would express this as a pause. So I would say, I'm feeling nervous today, and I pause. And in the pause, I'm reflecting that back to myself. And I reflect and come up with something new. So the very important thing there is to be reflexive. All right. And there's a word in German. It's called Nacherleben. And it's frequently used in Dilthey's philosophy. And this is where actually Genlin gets the concept of experiencing. But Nacherleben is hard to translate into English. It means after experience. So in English, it's usually translated as re-experience or re-experiencing. So the minute I say, I'm feeling nervous today, and I pause, I'm actually re-experiencing my words. I'm re-experiencing if nervous is right says my experience. Then I find it doesn't, and I change it. Oh, I'm just tired. Then again, I pause and I re-experience the word tired and see if it fits my experience. Then I might find that, oh, maybe I'm not tired, it's something else. Okay, so that it's something else, I dwell with that. So in all this time, I'm re-experiencing myself. And at the same time, the very interesting thing is when the other person is listening to you, the other person is also re-experiencing you. Okay. And it's strangely, not many English-speaking psychotherapists have taken up this re-experiencing, probably because the word doesn't exist. In Japanese, we call it suitaiken. And I'm making it a big thing in Japanese because nobody really took it up in psychotherapy. But it's something like this. I used to have a golden retriever. She died maybe 10 years ago. She lived until she was 16. She was an old dog. But if she were here right now, she would probably be putting her jaws on my lap and probably looking at me, sometimes sniffing at me. And sometimes she would always keep her mouth open a little bit. And when she's relaxed, she's always has her mouth open. So sometimes her drool will be on my pants. Okay, so, and as I speak about that, you probably re-experienced my experience. You probably saw the dog. You probably even felt the drool, the warm drool on your pants. Okay, is that empathy? It's not really the same as empathy, but somehow you can have a re-experiencing of my experiencing. And your experiencing is probably richer than what I explicitly said. So if I ask you, what did you see in your re-experiencing that I did not say? Then perhaps you'll come up with something like, the dog was wagging her tail. Okay, and then I say, oh yeah, that's right. She used to wag her tail. And now I have the experience of the dog wagging the tail. Or you might say, her hair is all over your pants. Then I would just remember that, yeah, it used to be all over my jeans and things. So what are we doing is, Gene would use the word crossing. Gene uses the word crossing in many ways, but this is one way that he uses it, that you and I cross in that moment. So he's talking about a kind of an intersubjective reality, right? So it's my experience, I'm talking about my dog, but if you ask me something about the dog, is the dog wagging her tail? Then my experience changes. And I could say that was implicit, okay? So as we talk, in our mutual re-experiencing, we are co-creating a story. So it's really very fine and very interesting that we need to listen to the other accurately, but in accurately listening to the other, we're actually co-creating a shared reality. That's heavy. Let's stop here for if you have one or two questions.
So many of the previously theoretical concepts, unconscious and what have you, they've been so reified that it's hard to crack their boundaries, or it's hard to think beyond them. And they're just concepts. They're just theoretical concepts that somebody made up, you know,
Yeah.
but they've been in our culture, in our psyche, put in for so long. They are like hard nuts to crack.
Yep. So it's a framework of how we see things. So I think one of the, I think it's one of my, what shall I say? My mission is somehow to tell this to you and say there's a different way of seeing things than the usual way of seeing things. Okay. So that was very heavy talk. And later on, when we do our experiential work, today I want to use pairs. In the pair, I would like you to experience some of the things that I've just talked about. So if it still is a little bit hazy for you, that's okay. We'll come back to that. All right. So,
Could I just ask a question here?
sure.
We're sort of taught in mindfulness that
Mindfulness, yeah.
that you should be fully present with the other person. And it almost suggests that you don't do what you just said. Like you're really listening to the other person and not putting your own stuff in there.
Right.
Can you just see how that fits with what you just said?
Yeah. A lot of people ask me something along those lines.
Okay.
There's a difference there of really listening to somebody and re-experiencing the person's experience. Okay, just like right now, I gave an example of a dog, and you can re-experience my dog. And that's different from your associations about a dog. You see, you know what I mean? So a lot of people think that you can listen to the other person and you can free associate from there. Like you might associate, oh, I had a dog too. The dog was a German Shepherd, right? And then you might throw in that, but that's your association. That's not your re-experience. So to re-experience the other, you must really fine tune to the other. In other words, you have to be fully present there. Okay. And well, I was going to do some mindfulness.
Yeah.
So I'll get to that. But if you think you have to be fully present, you would lose your mindfulness. It's just there. The person's experience is just there.
I thought that was a really good point you just made, though, because, you know, it's not just what we associations. Sometimes it's how what the other person is saying, how it lands on us could be very intense. It could hit something in us, it could hit a nerve, it could hit a trauma, or just that we are very, very, very sensitive. And then it could get subtly transmitted as you went through a trauma to the other person that they might not see it that way.
Yeah, that's right. Then we have all our filters, you see, and before we know it, we put so many filters on the way we see things, and we don't accurately see the other. So I think mindfulness does come in here because you want to get rid of those filters and just be there.
Are you saying that mindful listening is experiencing in this sort of way, or re-experiencing? Or are you saying mindful listening is not? Or is it both?
So we have another big concept here, mindful listening. I like the way David Rome talks about it, if that's what you mean. So it's actually mindfulness that is doing the listening.
Okay. And I am in there experiencing.
Yeah, you are the mindfulness. You are the observer. You are the witness.
Mm-hmm.
And we don't create concepts like me. It's just the experience.
Yeah.
So I would say mindfulness does the listening.
Yes. Thank you.
I think mindfulness has become one of those words or concepts that is taken in very broad directions, depending on who and what. I'm very leery as someone who's practiced and taught meditation for many years. I'm very leery of people putting that in a box as one way or the other. So I think what you're saying about experiencing and re-experiencing may be the same, maybe the different, maybe another tone of the broader mindfulness. But I just, as a person, find when people glom onto a word or a concept and they this way, I'm just listening as all of you are speaking, and I'm listening to what you just said about mindfulness as a listener, and that's very refreshing. And I'm also a little bit like, okay, what category is this person going to put mindfulness in? Do you know what I mean? It's sort of like air. It became a broader, it's hit the public in a way that it's taken on different connotations.
Could you say something about the purpose of having this sort of experience yeah, this sort of shared experience, the way you're describing it, and also if you could say some more about crossing.
Yeah, okay. Well, it's actually very difficult to think about purpose, you know, because it just is there. When you're listening to somebody speak, you're re-experiencing that person. It doesn't have to be in therapy, right? Like my dog example, right? So it's not a tool which has a purpose to use. It's not like that. I am trying to describe experience as we have them. Okay, and crossing, and Jean would use crossing in different ways, but the way I'm trying to use it now is that you and I will cross. Your experience and my experience will cross in a mutual experience. Okay, so if I said there's a dog here, and you said the dog's hair is all over your shirt, and then I would remember, oh yeah, that's it. When she was around, I used to have her hair all over my clothes. Okay, so that experience came through our crossing. It isn't my experience, it isn't your experience alone. We crossed and we created this shared reality. Jean uses crossing in many ways. I think this crossing of two people is very important. Another one he uses is a metaphorical crossing. So if we said his talk was hard-boiled, okay? So we've just crossed the talk and hard-boiled, right? And we think of like that. There was a depth in his thinking, okay? But thinking isn't really deep, okay? So we crossed the depth in thinking. So we use that a lot in focusing. For example, if we have a felt sense, if you think of your work, it feels like a dark cloud in my chest. What I've done is I'm crossing dark cloud in my chest in my work situation. So I might ask you, how is your work like a dark cloud? And then you start focusing. All right, okay, so much for that. Can we move ahead? And I think it's time for attunement. So I wanted to do a 10-minute sitting, mindfulness. And I know some of you are experienced meditators, and but I want to guide you a little bit. Okay, so we'll go into a 10-minute meditation, mindfulness, and try to sit comfortably. And we don't want to have your head dictate what you do, mindfulness or focusing, or whatever. Some people think if I'm going to meditate, I must sit properly. But that's the head thing. So the head is dictating you to sit properly. Okay, so we don't want to do that. Maybe you can just feel your sits bones. You know where your sits bones is? In your bottom. And if you could just shift your weight on your sits bones and try to find a point of balance where your weight is balanced on your left and right sits bone. Then you found a pretty good balance. And also you want to move this way too. Forward and backward, and see where's comfortable for you. Now bring your attention to the air coming in your nose and the air going out of your nose. And I'm not saying inhale and exhale because that's head stuff. That's your head dictating you. Even if you don't think about it, air will come in from your nose and air will go out of your nose. So just be aware of the flow of air. If any thoughts come to you, just notice that you are thinking about this. And then bring your attention back to the air coming in your nose and going out of your nose. And we will proceed for 5 more minutes with this. Okay. Okay, I'd like to move forward, go forward because we're a little bit pressed for time. And I'd like to go into a pair exercise. The exercise where I like to demonstrate about experiencing expression and understanding, or the re-experiencing. So this is a simple exercise, and we'll do it in pairs of 10 minutes each. So one person will be the speaker for 10 minutes, the other person will listen, and after 10 minutes, switch roles, and the listener becomes the speaker becomes the listener. Okay, and here's what we're going to talk about. First you spend a minute just to wonder, how is your life going? Now, I'm sure you have a sense of how life is going, but it's hard to say in words what that is. So think of an animal that will express your sense of life and see what the animal is doing. And as you talk to your partner about it, I think your experience will get richer and richer. Okay, you don't have to think of why am I a cheetah, or why am I a tiger? You don't have to think about that. If it just came to your mind that you're a tiger, you're a tiger. Perhaps during the talk, while you're talking, the animal might change. So if the animal changes, that's fine. Just go along with whatever comes. And talk for 10 minutes and switch roles. The point that I wanted to make, of course, is that human experience is not really made of words. So how I am right now, my existence, how I am now, isn't there in concepts. But as we use metaphors and speak, many facets begin to form, and we arrive at some understanding of ourselves. I think this is the core process in focusing. And of course, being an animal, I think you were experiencing an embodied experience of being the animal. If anybody wants to ask questions or...
You've used the term re-experiencing.
Yes.
And I'm very cognizant of what Jean used to say about, the minute you say something, that's not it. So for me, when I hear re-experiencing, it suggests to me that you're recreating the experience. But as I understand what you're talking about, you're really not recreating the experience, frankly, because you can't go back anyway. You're really talking about a reflexive experiencing, or a present experiencing. If I understand that correctly, am I right on that? I mean, you're not going back and saying,
no. The re is not like going back in time.
Yeah. So it's more of a reflexive, reflective experiencing.
Right.
Here.
Right.
When I am companioning you, I enter into that reflection.
Yeah, that's right.
Yes, that reflection. Is that correct?
Yeah. So the Japanese translation of the Nakalevin is follow experiencing. So actually you're following the person's experiencing, or you're following your own experiencing. So you're not going back in time to an earlier stage.
And that's where the
Right
Japanese
now.
is more precise. Yes.
Yeah, right. Okay.
I just wanted to say that because it's a community, like
Yeah.
I absorbed other people's animals when we were speaking, and it was really healing for me. Like I absorbed Sheila's wolf and the protecting the cub and strength, and then I added my own piece to it. So I just thought, oh, that's cool that I can absorb other people's animals if
That's
that feels
right.
right. Yeah.
So whose wolf was it? You know, it's really hard to say.
Was it
because you're
Sheila's
sort
or mine?
Yeah, because you're co-creating, you know, in some way. Yeah, yeah.
I'd like to ask about symbolization. You mentioned that at the beginning, and here we've gone off into experiencing, which is in our lead-in, we're accustomed to talk about, you can use words, symbols, or gestures. And how does that get into when we're then experiencing that, when the focuser is experiencing that, somehow we have to make words out of them, or in the co-experiencing with them, there's something that's going on which is nonverbal. And how does symbolization and non-verbalization match or mismatch or whatever?
Can you give an example of the nonverbal?
Nonverbal would be a gesture.
A gesture. Oh, I see. I see. Okay. Okay. So a gesture, a word, image, gesture, these are all symbols. A word, even a word, is a symbol. So Genlin has an interesting definition of symbols, and he would say that anything that functions as a symbol is a symbol. So even this gesture is a symbol. It has some, it points to some meaning. Is that okay?
But
have I answered? Yeah.
If the guide is trying to assist the focuser to move forward, how does in the co-experiencing of it by the guide or the companion, there's a certain amount of guessing, isn't there? There's a possibility of misinterpreting, but then I guess person has to, you can ask the person to reinforce or to recheck their own experience against that. Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah. I don't think the words like guide really doesn't say it exactly, or companion even. Well, maybe companion is better, but
is there a Japanese word for it?
For what?
For the person listening.
Japanese word for a person. Oh, like a guide, or instead of a guide.
Yeah, it's not a sensei, is it?
Huh?
It's not sensei, is it? Sensei, it means master, right?
Oh, sensei. Yeah, it means master. Yeah.
That's a different power relationship.
Right. So we just say listener, kikite.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You said something about what Genlin said about symbols, if you wouldn't mind repeating that.
He said anything that functions as a symbol is a symbol. in philosophy, there's a distinction between signs and symbols.
Mm-hmm.
But Jen would say anything that functions as a symbol is a symbol.
So it's like we never understand everybody fully. It's always an attempt to understand them, right? I mean, because in the process of understanding, other words will reveal, and the experience is unique to the moment, it seems to be, and then when you re-experience again with somebody else, it has a different meaning, it seems to be. I don't know, I mean, what do you think?
I didn't understand your question exactly.
No, in the, like you would say, as a therapist, right? We don't, that we try to understand the person, but we never understand them fully. It's we understand them better, but not completely fully. And in the interaction is an attempt to understand the other person, you know, and we tried, but we don't fully understand them. And perhaps we understand them more by trying, but never fully understanding. Them. I don't know. I mean, is that?
Yes, I think there is a difficulty when we use the word full or fully, as if there is a set which is 100%, you know, because it's not like that. You can't really say what is full and what is not full. But I like the way you use the word better. In fact, Jenlin gets this idea from Dilthey, and for Dilthey, definition of re-experiencing is to understand the author better than the author understood themselves. So better than, so to understand the client better than the client understands themselves. And this happens a lot in therapy. You hear something, the client is speaking, and in your experiencing, you get something there. And then you say that to the client. I'm getting this from listening to you. And suddenly that hits something in the client. And the client would open up from there. And this happens a lot in therapy. So I think there is that element of understanding better or understanding what is implied rather than just the explicit words. Okay, thank you for the questions. Nice to see you all.